Have you ever wondered how a massive, hyped-up international summit, one meant to broker peace, could just completely collapse, vanish in less than a week? Imagine the scene. Trump, Putin, the stakes incredibly high for Ukraine, then poof, gone. We're looking at exactly that today, the spectacular failure of the planned King's Table Talks, or KTT, and the immediate fallout across Washington, Moscow, and Europe. It wasn't just a delay, it really felt like a detonation. Before we get into the details, if you find this kind of analysis valuable, please consider hitting that subscribe button to support Geo9. It helps us keep digging into these stories.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing here is that this wasn't, just some scheduling hiccup. The failure exposed really fundamental problems in the U.S. negotiating strategy. It showed Russia's hand their non-negotiable demands. And maybe most crucially, it instantly started to corrode decades of trust, particularly within NATO intelligence circles. That's really our focus today, understanding the immense cost of a summit that simply wasn't.
Okay, let's set the stage. What was the initial U.S. strategy going in?
Well, Washington seemed to operate on the belief that they could somehow tame Putin. The idea was that this complex war could be managed, maybe even paused, by getting Russia to pull back from its maximal demands through a big, personality-driven meeting.
And this put Ukraine in a difficult spot, right?
Immense pressure. The U.S. approach basically required President Zelensky to accept a ceasefire-only deal, freeze the front lines as they were, let Russia keep the territory they'd already seized.
Yeah.
That was the ask.
On the surface, a ceasefire sounds good, but Zelensky didn't see it that way.
Not at all. From Kyiv's perspective, and understandably so, this felt like a betrayal. They saw it as just giving Russia a breather, a chance to rest, rearm, regroup.
And then attack again later, maybe even stronger.
Exactly. A highway for Russia, as they put it. Freezing the lines would, in effect, legitimize Russia's gains up to that point. He rejected it pretty firmly.
So the groundwork with Ukraine was already shaky. Where did the whole thing actually fall apart diplomatically?
It really came down to one crucial phone call, just days before the summit was supposed to happen. U.S. Foreign Minister Marco Rubio was on the line with Russia's Sergei Lavrov.
Yeah.
This was meant to be the final prep call, confirming the agenda.
What happened on that call?
The collapse was apparently instantaneous. Rubio brought up the idea of the summit focusing on a temporary ceasefire, and Lavrov's response was described as just cold, a firm refusal, no negotiation. He made it absolutely clear Russia wasn't interested in a temporary halt. They demanded all of Donbas.
Okay, wait. All of Donbas? That's not just holding the current line, is it?
No, not at all. That's the key detail. It meant the entire administrative regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. This was Russia stating its maximum goal, complete regional control, basically annexation. Zero compromise on territory.
So the U.S. idea of a simple pause was just dead on arrival.
Completely irrelevant from Moscow's perspective.
Wow, you can just imagine the scramble in Washington after that call ended. How do you spin that?
Well, the spin was bold, let's say. The immediate White House reaction was to declare the failed call a huge success.
A success? How?
They claimed the discussion was so productive, so conclusive, that the actual face-to-face meeting was, quote, no longer necessary.
That is audacious. I mean, did anyone actually buy that? Turning a total diplomatic failure into a supposed win.
It was pretty transparent. One source even called it worthy of a museum of diplomatic lies of the century.
Hard to argue with that, claiming success when your main proposal, the ceasefire, just got shot down completely.
It did more than just look bad, though. It really exposed a vulnerability. It showed Putin didn't need to escalate militarily. He just had to say no to the U.S. offer, and the whole American plan just crumbled.
So the summit meant to project strength became a symbol of weakness.
Exactly. Strategic weakness and perhaps a degree of naivete about the situation.
Okay, so that's the diplomatic implosion. What about the consequences beyond Washington? You mentioned the impact on allies, especially intelligence sharing.
Yes, and this is where it gets really serious, potentially impacting operational readiness for NATO. There was an immediate, palpable loss of confidence. Look at the Netherlands, for example. They're usually one of America's closest, most reliable intelligence partners. Yet they publicly stated they were now exercising caution in sharing sensitive information with the U.S.
Caution? Why? What were they specifically worried about? The term used was politicization of intelligence, right?
That's right. Two main fears, really. First, that intelligence data could be cherry-picked or twisted.
To fit a political narrative for domestic gain.
Precisely. Manipulated for political points, regardless of the actual facts on the ground. And second, maybe even more concerning, they worried about leaks. That sensitive information wasn't secure because of the political turmoil or lack of process.
If you can't trust the chain of custody, you stop sharing your most valuable secrets.
You have to. The risk becomes too high.
And this wasn't just the Dutch, was it? There was a ripple effect.
A definite domino effect. We saw reports that key northern European countries, Germany, France, Poland, started setting up their own independent intelligence channels, sharing critical information directly with each other, essentially bypassing Washington.
That's huge. When the core NATO principle of intelligence sharing starts breaking down.
The whole alliance structure is put under immense strain. It fundamentally changes the dynamic.
And wasn't there a specific bureaucratic decision that made things even worse?
Unbelievably, yes. Foreign Minister Rubio actually dissolved the specific bureau that was responsible for coordinating intelligence exchange with allies.
Dissolved it. Why on earth?
The official reason given was efficiency. But the immediate result was, well, chaos. Just adding confusion precisely when coordination was most needed.
That seems incredibly counterproductive, like shooting yourself in the foot during a crisis. What's the bottom line consequence of all this?
It's led to a deep erosion of trust. Even the UK, America's sort of older brother in the intelligence world, was reportedly privately considering more operational independence.
Wow, when even the British start thinking about going it alone.
It signals a profound private loss of faith among the U.S.'s closest, longest-standing allies. That's incredibly damaging. And if you try to connect the dots, the sources suggest this wasn't just about strategy, but also about some questionable personal choices and logistics.
Like what?
Well, Zelensky himself apparently made a cynical comment about the choice of Hungary as the summit location.
Hungary, given their government's leanings towards Russia.
Exactly. It sort of felt like trying to hold peace talks in a venue that was already compromised. It raised questions about how serious the whole endeavor really was.
And then there was the envoy choice. Not exactly a seasoned diplomat, was he?
No. The appointment of Steve Witkoff, described as a property developer and hotel businessman, as Trump's special envoy for these critical talks.
Instead of someone with deep diplomatic or geopolitical experience.
Right. It just reinforced the perception, fair or not, that this might have been more about the optics, maybe the deal-making image, than about the complex realities of the war.
Like bringing a real estate guy to negotiate nuclear disarmament, the skill sets don't quite match.
Precisely. And the European reaction to the summit's cancellation was quite revealing, too. Diplomats there apparently admitted, privately of course, that they were kind of relieved it failed.
Relieved? Why?
Because no one liked the idea in the first place. They were worried about the sheer unpredictability of it all.
But that relief must have been mixed with some serious concern, right? About what the failure signaled.
Oh, absolutely. The relief quickly turned into anxiety. They realized the bigger problem wasn't the failed summit itself, but what it represented. That the U.S. relationship just wasn't the reliable bedrock it used to be.
So how are they adapting to this new reality?
It seems they're trying a new, maybe slightly depressing diplomatic tactic. Reports suggest European diplomats are now working on a new 12-point peace plan. And apparently, its structure is modeled after the old Gaza agreement format, specifically designed to appeal to Trump's ego.
Wait, appealing to his ego, how does structuring it like the Gaza agreement do that?
The idea, it seems, is to build it around very visible, quick wins. Things like prisoner swaps, maybe temporary aid corridors, stuff that can be announced quickly and claimed as a personal success by the U.S. leader. Make him look important.
So diplomacy is now about finding ways to make a leader feel praised.
That seems to be the frustrating calculation. Less about the long-term solution, more about packaging it in a way that satisfies a particular personality. So if we pull all this together, what are the big takeaways? What does this whole episode teach us about global politics right now?
I think there are three major lessons here. First, it's become crystal clear that Putin isn't approaching this like a businessman looking for a good deal. He's playing a longer game, an old player, as one source put it, who sees compromise, especially on territory, as weakness.
Okay, that's lesson one. Putin's not looking for a discount. What's two?
Second, diplomacy driven primarily by personality, by ego, by political theater, it's incredibly fragile. It just can't handle real-world friction. It shatters at the first sign of genuine disagreement. It's built on sand.
Makes sense. And the third lesson, third, and perhaps the most impactful long-term. America's traditional allies are now forced to operate without the illusion, as the source material calls it, of guaranteed U.S. reliability. They have to look out for themselves first, build independent capabilities, and make calculations based on their own immediate interests, not just historical ties.
It really underscores that difficult point. Global politics isn't just a TV show with cliffhangers. The KTT fiasco kind of held up a mirror, didn't it? Showing how easily real peace efforts can get tangled up in campaigning, in image management.
Instead of focusing on actual resolution. And the impact isn't over just because the summit didn't happen. In fact, the fallout, this erosion of trust, this new model of personalized diplomacy, we're probably only just beginning to see the real consequences ripple outwards. If this becomes the template for how major powers interact, well, we risk just repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Leading not to the end of this conflict, but maybe just setting the stage for the beginning of the next show, as one analysis put it.
Exactly. A more complex, fragmented, and potentially even more dangerous show.
A truly sobering outlook. The cost of broken trust is incredibly high in international affairs. So what's your take on this? How do you see this impacting future diplomacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Geo9 so you don't miss our future analyses. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.